Okay. All right, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Vanessa. I'll be one of your facilitators and hosts for today. Before we get into the rest of the facilitator intros, I did want us to just take a moment to take in these beautiful surroundings and do some deep cleansing breaths together. So in case you haven't already, just take a moment to look around you and take in what you see visually, what you hear, what you smell, the fresh air. And we'll do a few deep cleansing breaths together. So for our cleansing breaths, we're going to inhale through our nose, deeply into our belly, and then we'll exhale slowly and gently through our mouth. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Wonderful. So I know that at times it can feel like these types of experiences are off limit or inaccessible, especially for people like us. So I wanted to be sure that we took a moment this morning to show gratitude to ourselves for getting us here. So I appreciate all the efforts that you made to be here today. And I'm very honored and excited to spend the day with you guys. Sorry, just realized my glasses are on. So next we'll get into some brief facilitator intros. You're gonna notice I have my note card here. And I'm gonna use unabashedly because I like to talk and I go off on tangents and I'm like, wait, what's the point that I was trying to make again? But also my memory is so different these days. Like I just like blank. I'm like, wait, what? And especially after I had my son, you know, being pregnant changes you physically, mentally, spiritually. So these words are from my heart, but I will be referencing my notes as I'm talking just to remind myself what I'm going to say. So just a little bit more about me. So I was born in Ohio, but I've lived in southern New Hampshire most of my life. I actually currently live in Manchester, so you drove by it on your way up. It's about 45 minutes south, actually 38 for me, door to door. So I've lived here for quite a long time. I grew up here at a time where I was like the only person of color in my class or my grade. I mean, New Hampshire was very, very white back then. I mean, it's still very white, but it was very, very white back then. And I actually, a couple years ago, created a service called Espirito Libre, which is free spirit. And it's designed to help people heal from trauma and stress using trauma-informed spiritual care. Trauma-informed meaning that I am deeply aware of how pervasive trauma is in our society today. And so I focus and recommend therapies and environments that support recovery and healing as opposed to those that can inadvertently re-traumatize people. So I really center the needs of the people that I work with, but don't force anybody to do anything that they're uncomfortable with or that they feel will harm them. My services are for everybody, but I center the needs of Black, Indigenous, and people of color, especially our queer, disabled brothers and sisters, as well as those of us who are exploited by capitalism. Those are causes that I'm deeply passionate about. I have a lot of lived experience with those things, and so that's who I tend to focus my services on. My spirituality has taken many forms throughout my life. I just never knew that it was spirituality at the time. So when I was little, I would get very passionate about different causes. So I went on a one-person campaign in my household to end smoking. When they started focusing on that, when I was in grade school, I would like make posters and flyers and stuff. I became a representative for DARE, Drug Abuse Resistance Education. I chuckle because I've learned a lot about different things since then. And, as I got older, I was like, I want to have more of an impact. I've always been driven by helping people. I've always been really focused on the needs of people who are more vulnerable than me. And so I started volunteering. I would work with different nonprofits. I would do the walks, the runs. I would help raise money. And it still was like, okay, this is great. I'm going to keep doing this stuff, but what else? What else can I do? And so then I went through my period of politics and activism. And so, I was there when Bernie Sanders opened his campaign office in Manchester. I was there when Black Lives Matter Manchester was founded. Taken to the streets, was with Femina a lot too. Anywhere where there was some sort of demonstration or rally, you were going to find me there. And that I still do. It was very cathartic, to get out, be with people who are passionate, just as passionate about things as you are.
Yes, we're in the nature.
Yes, nature happens here. Being around people, literally like shouting and all of that, very, very fulfilling and cathartic. But still, I was like, all right, politics is a sham. My personal opinions, I'm not trying to push anything on it. Politics is a sham. We're not accomplishing much through this. Activism, that's great. I'm going to still do that, but how else can I help? And then meanwhile, I'm working, right? I'm working my 9 to 5. I had been in my corporate job for about 20 years at that point. I started out on the phones, and at that time, I was a director in the company. And I had been through some stuff and was feeling very unfulfilled. So I made the decision to just walk away from my job, which was reckless. And but also very liberating. Now, I always acknowledge the privilege that I have in being able to do that, because I know not everybody's in a position to do that. So you'll never hear me say, leave your job. I understand reality with that. So I was fortunate enough to have the time and the space to really self-examine, and I came to the realization that this is my calling. I want to help people reconnect with their spiritual sides. So the practices that I tend to gravitate towards are anything that involves universal life force energy, also known as chi in Chinese or ki in Japanese, and I'm sure there are many other names for it in all the various languages. But really my belief is that everything in the universe is made of energy, that we're all connected. Energy can't be created or destroyed. It can only transform or be transferred. And just that knowledge in and of itself just opens up so many worlds of possibilities. You think about what happens after death then, or where did we come from as well. And so that brings me comfort and peace. And so that's why I choose to participate in practices that are really centered around that knowledge. When I was approached by Merrimack Valley Black and Brown Voices to collaborate on this day, I knew that I wanted to expose you to a variety of spiritual practices so that you have options and choices, because spirituality is highly individualized. There's no one way to be spiritual. You really need to decide what speaks to you, what feels right to you. So I knew I had to call in my big sis and my new little sis to bring forth their knowledge. And so I'd like to turn it over to Hershaba so she can share more about herself.
Thanks. I'm Hershaba, but I will answer to Hershaba. Like Nancy said, I'm her sister, so some of what she's already shared, we share in our experience. Growing up, we belonged to a religious organization, right? And we also share some childhood trauma that we survived as well. Throughout my life, especially as I got into my young adulthood, I was not satisfied with the way that my life was going. And I wasn't satisfied with what I knew as answering questions that I had, like very basic questions. Why am I here? What am I doing here? And what I knew was not answering that question for me. And I remember one night sitting in front of my computer, because this was back in the day when there wasn't, there was Google, so I was like Googling stuff, and there was some mention of like the Sphinx being 19,000 years old. This is in Egypt, right? And I was like, well, how's that possible? The Bible says we're only 8,000 years old, right? Like, so things started clashing very quickly in my life. And I remember the night I was like, I don't know who I'm talking to, but I want to know what's going on here. I need a path to try to understand my life, you know, so that I can have a sense of purpose, guidance, and direction. And from that moment on, there were a few different paths that I have taken over the last 15 years to try to better understand myself and have a broadening of my perspective to filter my life experience through. So the paths that I've been on come mainly out of West Africa, out of the countries of Burkina Faso, Benin, and Togo, and from different cultural tribes. So the Kemetic is more ancient Egypt philosophy, and then we have Tem, which is out of Togo, and that's an offshoot of Voodoo, as we call it here. So within that spiritual path, there is the acknowledgement that there is more than just us and the explanations that the Western society has given to us. So, for example, reincarnation is a thing. You know, we're on a cycle, we're on a course, we're on a mission here. There's a purpose to it, there's a goal to it. We have ancestors who are actively here with us, and I do want to give thanks to anybody's ancestors who are present with us. We have guides that are with us from different places. They're right here. I'm not talking about like way off in the universe. Yes, but locally here in our lifetime, who came through with us? What ancestors are supporting us? What family deities and divine beings are with us? So really getting in tune with that and learning how they are here and accompanying us, and then why did I come back? What is my reincarnation about? What am I supposed to do in this lifetime? So I started getting some answers, and there are a lot of surprises and a lot of toning in my life that I've had to do, but it's brought order to my life. It's brought peace and abundance to my life. I'm so happy that I don't have to filter my life through what the colonialistic westernized philosophy provides to me anymore, right? Okay, so in all that, also I've been working with plants for a while now in a few different forms. I did some training through my spiritual groups, and that's more in touch. Well, they use them practically, or they work with them practically, right, to deal with illness and occurrences of malaise. But also there's that spiritual connection. Like, I'll talk about this more. I'm not going to blow up my workshop right now. But there's more of a spiritual connection and perspective that comes from the indigenous BIPOC cultures that I appreciate. I did get trained in Western herbalism as a clinical herbalist, so that's more like biological terminology and all the things that white people put on herbalism to make it less accessible, basically. So I try to come from both of those things. I forgot, I live in Boston, I live in Dorchester. I have lived in that area for 24 years now. I have 2 kids, a beautiful daughter that's 23 and a beautiful son that is 29. I do all kinds of other work. I work in death midwifery as well. And so that's basically working with those who are about to transition out of this life to have that transition as gracefully as possible, and also supporting those who are bereaved by that loss as well. I'll stop there. I'm around if y'all want to talk one-on-one. I look forward to sitting with all of you in the workshops. Thank you for being here, and thank you for sharing your time, your space, and your energy with us.
Hi, my name is Merlin. I'm from Manchester, New Hampshire. I've lived there my whole life. I'm still 2 years old, okay. So I can look at the beginning, so I can keep track of
I don't know I don't think I printed that, Merlin. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll just talk. So growing up, I definitely had to deal with just being around mainly white counterparts and not really having an outlet up until I was in like high school, and doing summer programs and being able to be in programs that help students that don't have access, or in first generation families, to help them with their education and to try to help them get into college. I wasn't, up until that point, I wasn't able to talk to and hang out with and make friends with BIPOC community members. And so I kind of just went through life kind of having an identity crisis and not really knowing who I was, and also being told that I was like, I like talked like too white, and also being compared to like classmates that were white and being told that they were blacker than me. We've had this conversation in the car actually, but and that kind of made me question like if there was like this one identity as being a black person, and like I don't fit the mold. And then coming to the summer program, I like realized that there isn't just one mold to fill, and that was in high school, so that took a while for me to realize this. And then because of just the cheapness of going to college, I had to go up north, New Hampshire, so Plymouth State University. I went to college, and that is also when COVID started. And a little bit before COVID, I was interested in crystals, and I started like purchasing crystals, but not really for the spiritual aspect, but more so just because they're really beautiful, the attractiveness of them. And I knew people up there had like a tendency to kind of steal other people's cultures and kind of make it as their own and then sell it. So like crystals and jewelry and like all of that. And I kind of went into that myself, and I'm like not ashamed to call myself out because I was really uneducated at the time. And then I realized even more so during COVID that I should educate myself a little bit more about what I was doing and about crystals and about spirituality, especially because I've always had an interest in it. I grew up Catholic, so there was always that strictness, especially because I'm like Haitian, so there's that. There's that also like being Baptist Haitian, also being Catholic, both of those strictness like together. Being spiritualist kind of doesn't blend well, I should say. So once I went to college, I was able to explore that side, and it opened my mind up. Although like my white counterparts were doing these things, and like really taking different identities and making it their own, I was able to kind of realize that like there are multiple aspects that like, and not just being on Plymouth State University land and like acknowledging the fact that like that land was like taken from like indigenous people, but just the fact that like crystals and everything that I was interested in doing jewelry with it, that I needed to make sure that I was knowing the history behind it and knowing where it stemmed from and where it progressed to, and also how to explain crystals to people. And so during COVID, I like started my jewelry business as well. I educated myself a lot more, and then I really started crystals as like a business, a side business thing when I was in college, but then it definitely turned more into the spiritual side, as I said, and I definitely have grown, and I'm still in my early days of it, but I definitely think that I'm prepared and like advanced in it, and definitely excited to talk to everybody about it.
Thank you. So before we get into like the grounding exercises themselves, I do want to get the information download part of the day out of the way. Just know like if you forget something, you have a question, you can come to any one of us. We're here to, help. So we're going to spend the first part of our morning together here, practicing grounding. We're going to do an intentional mind and energy shift, and we're going to send a signal to our mind, body, and spirit that We're here to rest and heal. So we're going to do some exercises around that. Then you'll spend the next 5 hours choosing your own healing adventure, as I like to call it. So from 11 to 4, or from wherever we end till 4, you get to decide how you want to spend your time here. So one of the things that was important as we were crafting the day is understanding that yes, you're here to get information, but you're also here to rest. So there needs to be a balance in doing the work and then also resting too. So what you'll find on your cards and in the brochures that you were given is a schedule of the 3 workshops that we'll be facilitating today. So energy healing, crystal healing, herbal medicine, the times that they'll start and end, and then you are free to do whatever else you want. Nobody's taking attendance in the workshop. You know, you don't need to get your attendance card punched or anything. But really, truly, today is about you having autonomy over your time, deciding what feels right to you. So you have access to all of the facilities. So our property goes on beyond the house over there and then runs along that tree line all the way down over there by the beach area. So there's an area if you want to just walk into the water, you can get in over here. Please don't try to get in over here. The rocks are slippery. You will hurt yourself, okay? So if you're going to go in the water, go in down over there. Hot tub. So this is an 8-person hot tub, and each seat has a different jet pattern for a unique massage experience. So you and your other hot tub participants can work out a rotation schedule while you're in there or something. But that is available. We'll make sure to get it set up once we're done here. Please be careful as you're getting in and out of the hot tub. So any activity that you're engaging in today, you do so at your own risk, right? We want you guys to have a really great time in a safe manner. So please, as you're getting in and out of the hot tub, hold on to the side, take your time. There's no race here. And if you are going to go into the water, you know, obviously demonstrate water safety. We do have 2 kayaks with paddles that are over down there. You're free to take them and use them. You know, just be mindful that other people too want to use them. So just be mindful of how long you have them out. I've laid out the adult universal size life jackets are down there by the picnic table. So when you take the kayaks out, please use a life jacket. There's floats down there, so I like to just get on a float and just drift and see where life takes me, if they'll come back. So help yourself. You see our hammocks. You want to lay down, you take a nap. I got earplugs right in the doorway on the table there if you want to, you know, kind of dampen your auditory senses a little bit. I got like those eye masks that you can just keep when you're done with them are right there in the doorway. So if you need to like dampen your visual senses for a little bit. The inside of the house is open for you. You saw, if you went in, you saw the big couch. You can lay on it, take a nap. There's beds, take a nap. This is your space, and you get to pick how it feels right for you to rest in today. So on your lanyards, you have the times of your workshop. You don't have to wear those. I was joking around. They're not VIP access or anything. You can. I did get the lanyards if you did want to, you know, wear them, but you don't have to. It's more so you know what time the workshops are. Also, you'll see there's a QR code at the bottom of that. So that's for you to access information after today. So if you go there, it'll pop up the website. It'll have some information provided by us. The retreat playlist is there. So music that's been curated around the theme of today from BIPOC artists. And then on the back, you'll see that there's this really awesome sticker. It's called Don't Touch My Hair. It was designed by a queer black artist out of Manchester. And so I thought it was very appropriate for today. And inside is his business card as well as my contact information should you want to get in contact after today. Also, you'll see there's our mantra for the day, the intention and affirmations for today. And so I'll go over those as we go through the grounding exercises. What questions do you have? All right, so the crystal healing workshop will be on this porch here. You can get to it by going through the house or up the stairs, right outside. The herbal medicine workshop will be,
It's gonna be further down.
okay,
A little further down.
a little bit by where that foliage, those bushes are, over there. You'll see her shop over there. And then the energy healing will be in this outbuilding right behind you. We call it the bunkhouse. So we'll find you there. Any questions? That's okay. You got, I'm chill with the chill vibes.
So you said there's no like registration or check-in, so we could actually do the same workshop if we want to.
Oh yeah. If you want to repeat, yeah, you could stay with us the whole time. Yeah, if you want, it's up to you. Anything else? Yeah. I could show you a photo later.
I remember her being born.
Yeah. There's a picture of her holding me, and I'm like almost as big as she is, and I'm like only like less than 2 years old.
Yes. Yes, and we have other siblings as well too. We have an older brother, me, and then another sister, and another sister, and another brother, and then that's me. Yeah, it was great. It's fantastic sometimes.
I know there was a plan to have a couple more, but I'm glad that I was the youngest. All right, so we'll go ahead and get into our grounding, practicing grounding. So, hold on. I want to begin our grounding practice with the literal roots of this land, which belongs to the Winnipesaukee people. So you might be familiar with that name because it's the name of one of the biggest lakes in the state of New Hampshire. But it was also the name of the people who inhabited this specific local area, like literally, they were here. They were part of a larger group called the Pennacook, and the Pennacook were part of a larger group called the Abenaki. And the Abenaki formed and came together after the rest of their tribes were unfortunately decimated due to colonization, disease, and warfare. So they came together, strength in numbers, and then they're part of the Wabanaki Confederacy. But these groups of people have inhabited this land for at least 12 to 13,000 years. There's actually an archaeological site not far. You might have seen it as you were driving in, right over that bridge on the left. You'll see a green sign that says Lochmere Archaeological Site. If you didn't, on your way out, it'll be on your right-hand side, just as you're crossing over the river over that bridge. And within that site, they've actually found evidence of their existence that dates back 8,000 years. So they've been here for a very long time. The Abenaki Territory includes parts of northern Mass, all of New Hampshire and Vermont, parts of Maine and Quebec. So it was expansive as well. And they referred to this as Indakana, which means our land. Whenever I'm here, I'd like to just sit and contemplate what life was like for them. What did it look like here at that time? How have things changed? How's the landscape changed? There's obviously more visible changes in terms of like more humans living here and more structures. But like the actual landscape, how has that changed? We know that they grew crops, that they built villages that were near rivers, and that they had seasonal villages that they would go to in spring and summer to plant and to fish. And then in the winter, they would move more inland and live in smaller groups. They lived in these groups known as bands, which were really just extended families. And then the bands came together in spring and summer at these seasonal villages so they could grow and commune and all of that. And, as I think about that, I'm like, that sounds wonderful. Does that sound wonderful to you? Like, is that something I'm like, having that support of extended family, whether it's by blood or created, and just like a simple, peaceful existence. So, I like to sit and think about that when I'm here. I also like to imagine that you know, maybe I'm sitting in the exact same spot that one of these indigenous people sat in, and I'm looking at literally the same mountains that they looked at, and it always gives me this feeling of like awe and wonder, and I can actually like feel it in my body, and it gives me a sense of great comfort and peace.